Hello everybody, and welcome back to another Java tutorial. Now, in this tutorial we are going to be talking about how we can take user input from the console. So let's just get started. So first of all, let's talk about what the console is, just in case you don't know. So the console is basically this thing down here. Now IntelliJ calls it the terminal, but it is officially called the console. In Eclipse it will be called the console, but yeah, IntelliJ actually calls it run, so run is actually the console. Terminal, it's basically the same thing, but run is specifically for the output of your program. So we've covered printing to the console. We can output strings, we can output integers, doubles, etc. But how do we take input from the console? How do we take a user's input? And this is not honestly that common, but it's a useful thing to know nonetheless. So firstly, we need to create something known as a scanner. And what this does is it just scans the console for us, and we don't have to handle like reading each individual byte and stuff like that. So to create a scanner, we have to do scanner, and we'll just call this scanner is equal, and we're going to put new scanner. And then in here, in these little brackets, we need to put system.in. Now, I'm not going to explain the syntax here because that will be for a later tutorial. But all you need to know is that we're creating a new scanner object, and this object will use the system input for what it will scan. So if you remember with printing, if we type sout, you'll see it uses system.out, and that is because we are printing to the output, whereas here we're using system.in, which is system.input, and we're scanning the input. So let's do something very simple here. So let's say sout what is your name, right? Very, very simple. And then we want to find out what their name is. So this is really very, very simple here. So to get the name will be a string, so we can just type string name, and we're going to set that equal to scanner dot next, and this will just take in the next string that is given to it. So let's go ahead and now print sout the name, and let's see what this does. So let's run it, and you'll see it prints what is your name, and then we can type something in. So I'm just going to say my name is Harold. If we hit enter, you see it prints Harold. So if it's green, that just means that is what you have inputted, and if it's just white or grey, then that is the output. In Eclipse, I think it's actually the same colour for both, but that doesn't really matter. So yeah, that's great. So once again, we can use what we did in the previous tutorial here, and we can use some string concatenation and say hello and then plus name, and if we run that again, so our name is Harold, you'll see it says hello Harold, which is great. And you can see there are many opportunities for this. So okay, what if instead you wanted to ask for an age, right? So you want to know how old someone is. So let's just do this separately down here. Let's sout. Now I'm going to put in a \n here, and what this does is just creates a new line. You don't need to worry about it too much, but just remember \n equals a new line. So I'm going to then say how old are you? and then I'm going to say plus name, and then plus again question mark. So what that's going to say is, first it's going to ask what is your name, and then we're going to read the name, and it will say hello and then the name, and then it will say on a new line, how old are you, whatever name you provided, and then a question mark. So where we actually say hello name here, we might also want to put like an exclamation mark or just a full stop. I think a full stop is fine. And if we run this, let's just check this works first, and then we'll talk about other data types. So my name is Harold. It says hello Harold, and then it says how old are you Harold, and you'll see then the program closes, which is what this process finished with exit code 0 means. That just means the program has finished. And you'll see that if we now want the age, and this is really as simple as you could expect it to be. So for this one, for getting the name, which is a string, we're saying string name. Now we want an age, which is going to be a number, and ideally it would be an integer, so we'll just say int age. And you'll see we use scanner.next to get a string. Now for integers it's basically the same thing, so we just use scanner.next, and then we just type whatever data type we want. So we just want an int. Okay, and then we're just going to say what can we say in response to their age? We could just say let's just say, oh wow, I am also plus age plus years old. And you see that if we run this, okay, so it says what is your name, Harold. Hello Harold, how old are you Harold? I am 69 years old. And then the program replies, oh wow, I am also 69 years old. Now what you may be thinking is, what happens if we don't put a number in there? Which is a very good question. So let's try it. What is my name? Harold. How old are you Harold? Beans. You'll see that it throws what we call an exception. And this is basically just an error. So it throws what it calls a input mismatch exception, because we said it should be an integer, but we haven't received an integer. So we would need to handle this exception. If it's not an integer, we might want to give a response to say, please put in a valid age, right? That's perfectly fine. That's what you would want to do. But how do we know? How do we know that? And that is something we'll be covering in a future tutorial. It's out of the scope of this one, so yeah, that's something we'll cover in the future. There are also other things you can ask for, right? So you see, if you just do scanner dot, and IntelliJ gives us this autocomplete here. Now a lot of these are a lot more complex, so you might just want to do next, and then you can see the next ones. So you have big decimals, big integers. Don't worry about those too much. You got next boolean, you got next byte, next double, next float. You got next line, which waits for a new line character to exist. It's a little bit more complex. We got next long and next short as well. So yeah, that's basically what you need to know about the scanner. One thing I would just like to mention, if we run this again, you'll see that here the program hasn't terminated, and it won't terminate. In fact, this will wait forever. If I never put anything in, it will never do anything. And I can type, whatever I want in here, and it will never continue until I hit enter. When I hit enter, it will come out of this line right here. So this name variable will be assigned to whatever I input, but only when I hit enter. And it's the same with next int. So it will wait and it will block any of the following code. You'll see that, for example, this line right here, this hasn't printed, and this will never print until I input a number into here. So you can see I can input all I want. It doesn't print anything, but once I have this number in here, and that's actually too big, but if I put that number in there, I guess that was also too big. Yeah, I suppose that was also too big. But you'll see that if we actually put a valid number in there, then it would print this. I'll just do it again. So my name is Harold, and then when I put a valid number in there, then and only then it prints. And you'll see after that, because this is the final instruction we've given it, it then finally terminates the process, and that doesn't happen until everything has finished. So yeah, that's all I wanted to really talk about in this tutorial, and I hope you did find it useful. In the real world, like console input, you don't really need to worry about it too much. It's just kind of a handy thing to know, just in case you want to create a quick application. You don't want to mess around with GUIs, you just want to create a simple console application. Say maybe you wanted to make a program that could move files from one destination to another, but you didn't want to make a whole GUI for it. You just wanted to provide 2 file locations, and a console app is perfectly fine for something like that. Other languages like Python, you'll find that they are majority console applications, because it's just so much easier than creating a whole GUI for it. So yeah, now you know how to do that, just in case you ever need to do that. So yeah, I'll see you guys in the next tutorial. Goodbye.